Good day, everyone. I am Vanessa Simu Ajidwa, the founder and CEO of Ment4Her. And today we have a phenomenal interview with OpeOluwa, all the way from Nigeria. Welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa. So exciting to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Who is OpeOluwa?
My name is OpeOluwa, and I'm in my early 30s. I live in Lagos, Nigeria. I work in Lagos, Nigeria. So sometime in April, I decided to start speaking publicly about my HIV status, just to educate and inform, because there's still a lot of stigmatization and lack of certain educative information in Nigeria here, right? So I decided to do that, and yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
I found your story to be very interesting. We'll get into that a little bit later. And today we're talking about dreams taking flight. We're talking about, women who became fearless and were able to accomplish, their dreams. And you described yourself to me as a Nigerian woman whose HIV diagnosis in 2016, although devastated, birthed a God-given assignment, because we're talking about her dreams take flight here. And you said that I'm positive that, she said, I'm positive is where you openly talk about everything HIV. And when I first met you, I was really taken back by your courage to come out and share your status and share with other people HIV is all about, and destigmatizing it. And for me, that type of courage is just something that if we could bottle it, if we could put it in a bottle and sell it, I mean, it would be such a great pill to take, because honestly, to achieve anything in this life, it takes courage. And
Mm-hmm.
the courage you had to come out and say, look, I'm HIV positive. And I want to talk to you about, what prompted the sharing. Can you take us through that journey? Because I think when I met you initially, you hadn't even shown your face, right?
When I found out about my status in 2016, I I was devastated. I mean, as you must imagine. Then I started searching online to see if there was like an online community, because I'm not about to show my face and let people know, oh, I just tested positive to HIV, right? So I thought there was an online community that I could join, where
Hmm.
I could get information anonymously, where somebody could empathize with me and tell me that everything is going to be all right. But I didn't find any in Nigeria. I found one in South
Wow.
Africa, but that's not within my locality. And
Right.
at that point, it was that I am positive was born in me. Like, okay, this is something I can do. But I mean, I'm still healing. I'm still trying to even get a hang around it. So I just dropped it. And then in 2017, I started posting some uh graphic images here and there about HIV and stuff like that, but it wasn't working. And I understood that that wouldn't work because nobody knows the face behind the old thing that is on the page, right? So in 2019, 2020, especially during the COVID period, it became clear to me that this is how I have to go about this. I have to show my face to make people realize that it's okay. You don't need to
Hmm.
stigmatize me, because if I keep hiding my face behind an Instagram account, then I'm not really passing a message, or rather, there's an hypocrisy behind the message I'm passing of, oh, don't stigmatize us. We're still normal looking people. We can achieve anything. We can have a long, fulfilling life, right? So, yeah, I finally got the courage and the strength, thanks to God and friends and family, and I started it in April of this year.
Wow. Wow. Talk to us a little bit about, the loneliness in this journey. So you said you went online, and in Nigeria especially, there wasn't really a lot of pages talking about HIV status. Most people hide this. Even in the US, I mean, although people, it's a little more open here, more welcoming,
Mm-hmm.
I do still feel like that is a stigma that people don't want to just come out and say, look, I'm HIV positive. Like, there's still a stigma no matter where you are in the
Of
world.
course.
But to be in a part of the world where, it's not openly talked about most of the time, tell us a little bit about that feeling of maybe shame or loneliness that you went through.
It was, I think, first of all, the sad part is the fact that if you're just finding out about your status, it's not even the shame from other people or the shame you get from telling other people that you experience first. It's the shame you feel, that you how do I put it? You shame yourself by yourself. Literally, you begin
Mm,
to think, what did I do wrong? I feel so dirty, and not. You don't even accept yourself. So it's definitely going to be much harder for anybody to accept you, right? I was in a relationship at the time, and I mean everything was heading in the right direction. It seemed like we are going to get married and stuff like that, and I broke the relationship up because I thought, I'm ashamed of myself. I'm stigmatizing myself. There's no way this person can accept me. So let me just end it and deal with
mm,
my shame by myself. Right. So when you're in that space where you're just lonely and you just want to give up on life, you really need a community. You need somebody who's experienced it for a while to say, it is normal to feel this way, but if I can be like this now, then you can be like this. I'm going to hold your hands through the journey, right? Which is
wow.
what I Am Positive is trying to achieve. Yeah, so that's it.
Wow. Women, no matter what, whatever you're dealing with, you found a diagnosis or something that you don't like. Something you said that's so critical is that it first starts with, there's this new thing that I've started to like talk more about, shattering the glass ceiling within first, right?
Mm,
Shattering the limiting, you got to work on those limiting beliefs. It's
mm-hmm,
internal first before external. So before, if
mm-hmm.
we're talking about her, the theme is her dreams take flight. So, what you just said just tells me that before anyone else can accept your dream or accept you, you have to accept yourself first.
Really,
You
yes.
have to believe in yourself first,
Yes.
right? In any situation, it
Any.
starts within. So you shattered, Pelu, you were able to shatter the glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're at that point where you're self stigmatizing, self sabotaging, and you have so many self limiting beliefs, maybe based on what you've heard about HIV or any other situation that you're experiencing anyway, because we're talking about general now, you tend to begin to accept things that you would normally not accept. So
Mm,
you start being a little bit more timid. You start accepting people just being rude to you or just shoving you over because you feel like at least they're still looking at me or looking my way, so I can still accept this, right? So at the end of the day, if you don't accept yourself and love
mhm,
yourself, there's no way you can teach anybody else around you to love you. And
mm.
I don't think that I've ever loved myself the way I love myself right now, ever in my almost 32 years on earth. Right now, I'm just so happy with myself. I'm in love with myself, literally. I accept myself. So if I meet somebody and it's a problem for them, honestly, it's fine. I mean, it's the level of their understanding, right? So I'm not going to
Right,
allow that level of
right.
understanding affect me and take away all the hard work I've done on myself to overcome self-sabotaging and self-stigmatization, right? Because it is really heavy. I tell you, it is heavy. When people talk to me, you realize that the first feeling is shame and the fact that they're just self-stigmatizing themselves, because I mean at this point they've not even told their family members, so they're still dealing with
Wow.
it on their own, right? And they're crying a lot, shaming themselves a lot, saying so many negative things about themselves a lot, by themselves to
Right.
themselves, right? So that's a lot. But I believe it's a journey, step by step, especially when you have the right person or the right people or the right environment or community supporting you, then it's something that can be overcome. Yeah, so
So certainly you've created a safe haven for persons who have been diagnosed with HIV. Is it
mm.
just for women or is it for men as well?
Oh, it's for everybody. I talk to men, I
Everyone.
talk to women. Actually,
Okay.
it's for
Okay.
everybody. But um, what I've realized is it's easier for women to open up. I don't know if it's a
Mm,
thing, women, it's easier for a woman to go see a therapist or see a pastor or talk to somebody. For men, I don't know if it's the old masculinity thing, but I
right.
have
Right.
more women that I speak to than men. But of course, they are men. Yes.
Usually men are the last to accept help and say something's wrong. I think it just comes with the territory. Tell us a little bit about when you came out, what was your biggest fear?
Ooh, I think for me, my biggest fear was losing my job. I thought that I was going to lose my daily bread. I thought that by releasing
Wow.
that video, my bosses are going to be like, "Well, we accepted you, and we thought you're going to keep this quiet. Why do you want all your colleagues to know?" I thought that maybe my colleagues were going to changed the way they behaved towards me. I thought that some of my friends would stop talking to me just by being associated with me. But
Right.
honestly, that wasn't what I got at all, especially with my colleagues. They didn't they didn't suddenly like me more or hate me more. They just treated me the same way they usually treat me. And that's all we really need as people living with HIV. When I tell you about my status, I don't need you to pity me and then start loving me more, caring for me more. No.
Right,
And I
right,
don't need you to be
right.
negative towards me as well. Just be normal around me. It's okay, right? Because any change can also affect the growth that we've been experiencing over time, just accepting
Okay.
ourselves and all of that. So that was my biggest fear, the fact that a lot of people might start discriminating towards me, especially at my place of work, right? But that wasn't the case. I mean, at the end of the
Wow.
day, fear is terrible. It will make you
Mm,
not achieve or do things that you ought to do, just the fear of the unknown.
mhm.
So yeah, that was literally my biggest fear.
You are such an inspiration because
Thank you.
I'm listening to you and I'm saying to myself, the fear of the unknown, the fear, we literally start to make things up in our heads, right? Because when you fear the unknown, you start to say, well, if this, then this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And really, you haven't experienced that situation yet. You didn't, like you said, I thought my workplace, they were going to get hostile or I was going to lose my job. And none of that happened.
None of it.
You kept your job, and you probably were, probably look to as this, like, she's so brave. Like, if I was in her shoes, I
I got
probably would
promoted
never
to
do it.
Vanessa. Like in the midst of it, I got promoted. Do you believe that?
That's it.
I know.
Exactly. Because it shows, like, honestly, especially when you're talking about like leadership and someone who has a drive, for you to say, look, this is my status, and guess what? I'm living with it, but I'm not gonna be labeled by it. I'm not gonna be
Mhm.
stopped by it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, so much to learn from you. Women, if you're listening to this, if there's anything you can take from what OpeOluwa has been through, is it's a journey, it's a process. You keep working on yourself
Mhm.
and don't allow other people's way of thinking
Mhm.
impact or take you back.
Exactly.
Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams. It starts within. The love
Mhm.
has to come from inside. I love when she
Yeah.
said, look, I love myself and I don't care what other people think about me,
I
right?
do. That's what the matters really.
And you see that on your Instagram. You're like, I see you're dancing sometimes, you're like, excited, you talk about life. And honestly, like I said before, whether it's HIV or depression or you loss of a job or you're dealing with, a post cancer, whatever
Mhm.
it is,
Mhm.
right? Because there's always going to be something in life. That's
Really,
just
yeah.
the truth. I think the sooner we start to normalize these conversations, the better. There's always going to be something. And I think, especially, I mean, we're a women's, empowerment group, a social enterprise where we help women realize their dreams. But one thing that I look to, and I'm like, a lot of women really need to come to that place of saying, you know what? No matter what happens in life, I can look to a group, a
Yeah.
community, like you said, for support to overcome this. And it's not the end of the world.
It is
Women
not.
were emotional. We overanalyze everything, right? We're in our
Mm.
heads most times instead of moving forward. So you, at some point, you say, you know what? Enough of overanalyzing this, because you've told your boss, you told your family members, and
Yes.
you're like, why not the world?
Exactly.
And here you are on a global platform sharing your story.
I know, right?
If that's
It's
not
so
dreams taking flight, I don't know what else. What would you say to a person who just found out about their status and they're afraid to come out?
Oh, well, I'll say take your time. I mean, there's no rush in
Mm,
coming out. So when people talk to me and say, well, how do I tell my parents? I'm like, relax, deal with you first. So you
mm,
really need to be okay on your own first before you start having to deal with who to tell, especially if you're single. I mean, if you're married, that's a different conversation entirely
right,
because
right,
you then have a spouse, right?
right.
But I'm talking about people that just found out and maybe they still with their parents or something like
Mm,
that. I usually tell them, deal with you first. There is no rush in telling anybody about your status at the moment. Make sure that you're using your drugs accordingly,
right.
and take it one step at a time. Feel all the odds, feel all the pain, feel whatever emotions. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel it. process it, take it one step at a time, one day at a time. It gets better, I promise it does.
There is stigma, but what is that like?
Some stigma is very subtle. Some they make it very obvious, like don't come near me. And I feel like maybe it's even the subtle ones that hurts the most. So all of a sudden you don't want to share cutlery with me, or if we're dating and then I tell you about this, you stop taking your calls or stop, responding to
Mhm.
messages. I mean, there was even a time I met a guy and everything was going on well. We like used to speak every time. And then once I told him, he wouldn't even chat with me on WhatsApp. I'm like, wait, you can't get infected through WhatsApp. Like, why are you
Wow.
avoiding me? Right? So those are the kind of stigmatizations that you experience, and it's worse here in Nigeria. I mean, like you said, in America there still is stigmatization, but I feel like they're really fighting it head on. There's a lot
Right.
of groups and societies and all of that, and even individuals fighting it tooth and nail. But in Nigeria, it's still growing. It's still growing. We're doing our best, right?
Right.
So stigmatization is a thing, and I know that it is because people are stigmatized that people don't want to get tested. Now let me explain. So if
Mhm.
Mr. A has stigmatized me in the past, it's going to be quite difficult for him to go get tested, because if he tests positive, then he's going to experience exactly what he has handed out to somebody else, right? So, and if that continues, then it means that the infection will keep spreading and it gets worse. So once we are able to deal with the endemic of stigmatization, I feel like we are getting closer to ending this whole cycle of HIV and increase in infection rates. So yeah. I was talking to a lady recently who got infected and all of that. So one day while she was crying and all of that, I'm like, stop crying, it's going to be fine. If I can get here, then you can get here. She goes, no, I don't think you have it. I think you're just doing this to help us. I'm like, what?
Wow.
What does that even mean? I'm living with it just
Wow.
like you. So when you see me, you don't see it, but it is there, right? So
So, what gives you so much strength? What gives you this, oomph about you where
honestly,
you
I
said,
don't
"Look,
know.
I don't even care. Like, I'm just gonna live my best life."
Number one is the God factor. So I didn't by myself decide to do this, even though it was an inspiration in my heart. Like as soon as I
Mhm, mhm.
couldn't find a community locally, I'm like, nah, something is missing here. But then as I grow in my relationship with Jesus Christ, I realized that void that I needed to fill wasn't just something that came up on its own. It was like an inspiration of the Holy Spirit. And then when it was like 2020, 2021, I felt like this push, like you have to do this. There are people waiting for you to accomplish this. There are
Wow.
people out there that are sad that needs to be touched, so I felt that push. And when God sends you on an assignment, he equips you for it.
So, if you were to talk to your younger self, right? What one thing would you tell your younger self looking back today?
Hmm. I think I would have told myself to live more,
Mm,
because I realize now that I'm living more than I've ever lived before. I missed out on a lot of things just because maybe it was the mindset or the environment that I lived in, I
mhm.
guess. But I would have told myself, live more, take bolder steps, do it afraid. You did say that it's
Yes,
okay to be afraid, right?
yes. Do it
But do it
afraid.
afraid. It's
Yes,
okay
yes,
to do it afraid. Like, there are a lot of youngsters coming up these days, and you're like, this person is just 18 doing this big thing. It's just 23 doing this big thing, and you're
yes.
like in your 30s, right? So it's like, if I was younger, I'd have told myself, just do it.
Just do
There's
it.
literally nothing stopping you. The world is your oyster. Just do it.
Yes, and failure is part of your success, honestly.
Exactly.
It's fail fast, get up, and keep it moving, and just learn
Exactly.
from it. So, I love that.
Exactly.
I believe the work you're doing at I'm Positive 416 is going to be pivotal because keep, encouraging people to speak up, keep encouraging them to share their story, to tell their partner. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for
Woman
having
of
me.
courage. You're so full of life, which is what I love, and we've learned so much from you today.
Thank you.
OpeOluwa of I Am Positive 416. We will certainly, I'm sure, hear again from you at some point. So, our audience, thank you so much for being with us today. So,